Okay. Welcome to the fall semester at University of the Cumberlands. Late August, starting to show signs of summer ending and hopefully cooler weather ahead. Welcome to ITS832 Information Systems in a Global Economy. I'm Dr. Don Walker. I'll be your instructor for the next 16 weeks. And this is the first lecture in a series of 16, 15, depending on how you look at residency weekend. Um, all right, I'm just going to get started, give you a little background about myself, um, give you an overview of the course itself. We'll talk a little bit about the text. It doesn't figure heavily in our course. Uh, give you some idea of the assignments that you'll be knocking out this semester, and then I'll conclude. So, a little bit about me. Been in information technology. Started off um, my professional life as an electronics technician working on aircraft navigation systems, and so I was working outdoors on aircraft and in the shop on electronics equipment, and I decided that that was not for me and I decided to get into computer programming. This is in the late 80s, about 1987. So I'm a retired Air Force officer, but I started out as an enlisted man working in electronics, and then moved into computer programming in 1988. And I learned Fortran and COBOL and assembler and Pascal and Oracle, relational database management, system development, SQL. Learned a little C, those sort of 3GL languages. I never developed software in the object-oriented languages or using object-oriented technology, but I've studied it somewhat in academically. Then about 10 years into my IT career field, into my IT career, the Air Force decided to stop using military personnel to do software development. So I moved into telecommunications in the mid 90s. The internet happened. And then by the late 90s, it was obvious that I needed to do something more along the lines of networking. Uh, so I got a master's degree in telecommunications, and I've managed a network control center with core services, file, print, email, infrastructure, the base local area network, help desk, those sorts of things. Uh, Moved from that into I ran a testing lab. I'll post my CV. Ran a testing lab. Ran some higher level information systems, enterprise level stuff. Um, Got out of the Air Force. Did some traveling. Um, Finished a doctorate. I'm now back at work. I have a full time job at the University of Central Arkansas, just outside of Little Rock. I'm the director of a coding academy, which is a non credit bearing coding boot camp. We teach Java programming, and my graduates are employed almost immediately upon graduation throughout Arkansas, Central and Northwest Arkansas. You might have heard of Walmart or Tyson Foods, JB Hunt, Merkel. We've got graduates in a lot of uh, Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies. But I've also got a background in education. I've been adjunct faculty um, since 2001, the first time I taught an undergraduate class. But continuously, I've taught continuously since 2005. So I've got thousands of students that I've taught over the years. I really enjoy working with at all levels, undergraduate, graduate, PhD students. I really like working with fellow professionals who are goal oriented and working towards a career goal, professional enhancement. Some things about me, my characteristics. I'm helpful. I'll do more than whatever it takes to help you. All you have to do is ask. I can't read minds, so you got to let me know when you need help. I'm honest, which means I will give you very honest feedback, which may or may not be flattering. It may or may not be something you want to hear, but I'll be honest and let you know how you're doing. I'm energetic. I'm hardworking. I'm very precise. I'm a software engineer, telecommunications engineer. I don't use imprecise language, and I don't appreciate imprecise language in others. I write very precisely to a specification, whether it's software or academic writing. I follow the instructions. I answer the requirement. I'm very precise, and I expect precision in the people around me. I'm very friendly. I have great friends. I'm a acoustic guitar player, entertainer on the side. I've hosted trivia, so I'm very much a public speaker, outgoing kind of guy, and I'm trustworthy. If I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it. Uh, and I've been in a position of trust with a security clearance for years and years and years. Some things I am not. I am not particularly understanding or sympathetic. So um, that is focused at people that want me to understand that they were busy and their assignment was late because they were busy. And I'm not. I don't understand that. I didn't turn in anything late during my own doctoral journey. Uh, so I don't do, I'm not I'm not understanding, and I don't have any sympathy because I am super busy. I have a family, I have a job, I have other interests, but I will get these lectures posted on time, um, and I will get your feedback to you by the Saturday evening following when it's due. Your assignments, everything is due on a Sunday at the end of the academic week. I begin grading immediately. Sometimes when people turn things in early, you might get early feedback. But I grade everything by the following Saturday. So I don't let a week go by that you won't get feedback. Um, so that's about me. You can trust me. I will be consistent. You may not like uh, how my standards, how I will hold you to a standard. But trust me, if you rise to the standard I present to you, you'll be successful. You'll be a respected colleague among the academic community. You'll write precisely. You'll follow instructions, and you can trust me to be consistent. Um, okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna pause recording for just a moment. Okay. Sorry for the interruption. My dog heard a noise. Okay, so our course objectives are spelled out in the syllabus. The overview objectives of the course, um, as well as weekly topics that we'll cover. That some of them are direct from the objectives in the syllabus. Some of them I entered to help you with your dissertation journey. It's never too early to start on your dissertation, but um, I want to pass on what I learned while I was writing mine. It was the biggest part of the doctorate is really the research. It's not the coursework. It's not another master's degree. So anyway, these are the topics: privacy, data protection, data management. We talk about taxation, revenue generation for governments, and taxation of individuals, in a global environment where you can work from one place and live in another. We'll talk about globalization, mobile workforce, outsourcing, those sorts of things. Now, there's a course in strategy development, but there are a couple of lines about strategy in the syllabus. So we'll try and focus on the policy. This course is a lot about public policy and information systems. So we're going to try and keep it sort of focused on that, but not limited to that. And some of the syllabus objectives talk about strategy. So we'll talk a little bit about maybe a national strategy, a global strategy for IT, where countries are putting money towards computer science education. They're putting money towards extending the network to promote e-commerce and distance education and distance medicine and lots of different things going on out there. But you have to have a strategy. You have to have a national strategy to do that. Um, we'll talk about current global IT trends, everything from disruptive technologies, um, cloud computing, those sorts of things. Um, Developing emerging markets and IT competition. There are leaps and bounds being made, huge progress being made in Africa, everywhere, Africa, Asia, rural North America, um, where perhaps there wasn't a lot of IT connectivity. And then the other objective, and this is really more my objective for this course, because I know how important the dissertation journey is, and getting to work on that earlier than later. So we're going to talk about scholarly writing. We're going to get you off, hopefully on the right foot. If you're early with University of Cumberland's, I think everyone is fairly early in the degree program. We'll talk about reviewing literature, how to use the literature, how literature is constructed. All these journal articles are very similar in their formats, so we'll get you used to that. And then we'll help. I'm going to try and help you focus on a research project. Again, it's very early, but you probably have some ideas of things that you might want to research, and I'll help give you some food for thought as you approach your research project, and some things to consider as to maybe whether or not what you're thinking of would make a suitable research project or not. Again, just advice. I'm not your research supervisor or your committee chair. I'm just passing on to you what I learned, having recently this year completed my dissertation and graduation. Your textbook will play a very minor role in this course. So please don't try and read every chapter exhaustively. There's some interesting things in there, but it focuses on information systems support to policy generation in general. Lots of any kind of public policy. It talks about data analysis and using for people in government to use data-driven decision making in making public policy. It talks about models, computer models to generate public policy so that you can look at the effect, simulations to help you generate if you changed your traffic policy. What the simulation would say that X would change if you changed your revenue policy. Things would change. So it's modeling and simulation to support. What if I change this policy? How would this change in policy affect the real world? A lot of things like that in that text, which it's interesting. I read the abstracts for all of the articles and some of the methodologies, and it's very interesting. But if you read the syllabus objectives, you'll see that it's broader than just how do we as computer scientists help policymakers? It's more broad than that. And it is certainly not anywhere close to, no textbook you have in any course is going to be all you need. There, you are going to need to dive deeply into the literature out there in peer-reviewed journals, and depending on what you're studying, will perhaps change the journals that you look at. Okay, your assignments for this 16-week semester will consist of 8 discussion questions and 4 APA papers. Those assignments are going to be fairly short, and they won't account for a huge amount of your grade. They will only count for 40% of your grade. But for those assignments, there are no late assignments and no do-overs regardless. If no matter what, you get one shot at these things, and that's all she wrote. None of them are worth a whole lot of points. So if you're disappointed in your first discussion question in your first paper and you get your feedback and it wasn't what you had hoped for, don't be dismayed. You have a lot of assignments coming up, and most of those will be in the residency session. I will see you all in about 6 weeks in Dallas, Texas, and there you'll complete your practical connection assignment, which is where you really just write a couple of pages that puts the course content in context for yourself. You really you'll just write a little bit about how the course topics, the stuff we've covered, and perhaps the topics that we have not yet covered, how they apply to you in your professional life. So we'll complete that. You'll complete a research paper, and you'll present as a group the results of your research papers. These are the following. The first one, the practical connection assignment, is an individual assignment. The research paper and presentation are going to be group assignments. And those 3 assignments are 200 points out of 1,000, so 20% each. 60% of your grade altogether will be in this residency session. So October 11th through 13th, do not plan on being anywhere but with me in Dallas, Texas. And we will have a robust weekend, and it won't just be coursework. We'll work on dissertation things as well. We've got a few hours Friday night, all day long on Saturday together, and then half a day on Sunday before we adjourn. Plan on being there. Attendance will be taken. You'll be there, and it'll be long days, but 60% of the course will be handled at that residency weekend. Okay, I started with the University of the Cumberlands in June, taught over the summer, and I don't know, depending on where you are in the course and how closely linked you are with your colleagues that are taking courses with the University of Phoenix. We have an epidemic problem with plagiarism, with copying each other's discussion posts and just changing the words so that maybe Safe Assign doesn't catch you. But a real problem with people not writing their own papers and their own discussion responses and their own responses to fellow students. There's just a whole lot of cheating going on. There's no other word for it. I'd love to call it something else, but it's not. It's cheating. It's using someone else's work to take a shortcut to try and get a grade, and you don't learn anything. It doesn't prove anything. It doesn't help anybody, and it's morally objectionable. And I worked my proverbial tail off during my doctoral program. I wrote absolutely everything originally. I might have used a direct quote here or there occasionally that applied directly to my assignment. But about halfway through, I was taught that that's lazy writing. You don't directly quote, you paraphrase an author. And we'll go into a little more about paraphrasing and rewording during this lecture. But uh, suffice to say, rewording. Now, if you look up the dictionary definition of paraphrasing, you might find that it says that it's rewording someone else's content, and that's true to a point. Say I'm writing, and I'll give you lots of examples of my own writing where you will see where I paraphrased another author. Say there's some article out there where somebody did a study. They put out 100 surveys of employers, and they asked, "What's the one thing you see in your software engineering applicants, in your software developer applicants? What's the one thing you see that they lack the most?" And his survey data came back, and that researcher found that what they lacked the most was communication skills, because, say, 76% of the respondents said that communication skills were lacking. Now, that person is going to write up a 20-page journal article that talks about their development method, their research methodology, and what the problem was, and they'll give the background of software engineering applicants and the human resources talent gap and how hard it is to fill vacancies, and they'll give you 20 pages of material in a fairly standardized format about their study. And in their findings section, all of these journal articles that conduct original research will have a findings section. In the findings and discussion, he will say the biggest lacking that potential employees have is communication, and he'll talk about the sample size and the verifiability of the study and all of that. Well, if you're going to paraphrase that, you would say something like, uh, and studies of, research has shown that that software engineers need to learn how to communicate better. And then you would say what Johnson 2018 or whatever the author was. So you did not take any of his words and paste them into your browser window or Microsoft Word and start changing the words to his writing. All you said was software engineering applicants need to learn how to communicate better. And then you cited his article. That's paraphrasing, where you take the essence of someone's findings and you weave it into your own train of thought. You don't take someone else's blog entry or article or whatever it is and cut and paste the abstract into yours and start changing the words. When I see that, for one thing, nobody's going to understand what you're talking about because you'll change the words to some abstract turn of phrase that no one uses, and it'll sound ridiculous. And you don't want to sound ridiculous. You want to sound trustworthy and professional and accurate. So That's the difference between plagiarism and rewording. First offense, you get a 0 in that assignment. And if it's your 200-point research paper or your 200-point practical connection assignment, that's a lot of points to lose. It's hard to come back from that. First offense, 0 for the assignment. Second offense, fail the course. I had 8 people fail the course over the summer for this issue. 8 people out of 40. And that's that. Don't reword, don't plagiarize, don't copy what, don't say what your classmate said. You may make grammar mistakes, and that's okay. You may not feel confident with the language. That's okay. Don't take shortcuts. Write originally from scratch, from a blank document. Don't cut and paste and then change the wording. I'll see it. I'll know. I'll catch it. I'll call you on it. Even if it doesn't bust the plagiarism checker, and even if I don't have to write an academic report, if you turn in something that is nonsensical drivel, I'll give you a 0. So don't try it. I'm sorry I'm taking so much time on this, but it was what I spent the majority of my time last semester, and I'm not doing it this time. I'm going to help you substantively on your journey towards being PhDs in IT. I'm not going to play around with ridiculous rewording of someone else's text so that you can be done with your assignment. I'm not doing it. Um, so, like I said, we'll give you an example here. But the bottom line, it's really easy. And I'll get, oh, I'm sorry, it's my first semester, I didn't know better, and nobody believes that. Everybody here's got a master's degree. Everybody here knows what they're supposed to be doing. Sometimes you get busy, and you take shortcuts. And if you do, and I catch you, just take it like an adult and move on and don't do it again. But the bottom line is don't try to pass off someone else's work as your own. This is simple. So I'm not going to hesitate to turn in someone for cheating because, like I said in my things about me, I'm trustworthy, I'm honest, I'm hardworking, and I expect that from everybody around me. If you're not, it's not too late to drop the course. If you're not hardworking, if you are not honest, if you're not trustworthy, then you probably have the wrong instructor. So let that be your first and final warning. And hopefully, I won't have to talk about it at all the rest of the course, and it'll be much better than the summertime semester. Okay, so in conclusion, my CV, my detailed CV, will be in the content area. Your assignment timelines and all the policies, everything I've talked about, academic honesty. You can use portions of previous assignments that you've turned in for other classes. Portions, like maybe a paragraph. No more than 20%. It's in the syllabus. It's clear in the syllabus. I hope everybody watches this lecture and and reads that syllabus before they get started in the course. So, um, uh, zero tolerance, zero tolerance for plagiarism. I'm not playing around with that this term. Um, I look forward to learning from you all as you share your experience. Um, so, one thing I don't think I really covered that I want to go back and cover is discussion questions. Uh, your 8 discussion questions. I want the discussion boards to be, and I believe I put this in the syllabus, I want them to be professional discussions between peers where it sounds something like maybe you and I would be talking at work in where everybody can hear us, like at the water cooler or at the snack machine or in the conference room or making a cup of coffee in the break room, where we are talking about work. We're talking about something exciting uh, that we learned, and we're sharing that with each other. We're asking questions of each other. It's a two-way conversation. Um, the nightmare discussion board that I had last term that I want to avoid here is where somebody goes out on the internet and finds something loosely related to the topic, and they change some words around to try and beat a plagiarism checker, and they paste it into the assignment, and they're pontificating, uh, they're lecturing us. Your fellow students uh, shouldn't be lecturing you. You should not be lecturing your fellow students. You should be talking to your fellow students. So don't go out on the internet, find something and paste it into your discussion like you're some expert on any of these topics. Um, it's kind of silly looking. And then I would see some other students say, "Oh, that was a very good point. You are obviously an expert in the subject. And what I want to say here is," and then they would paste something from the internet that they copied. And it was like watching a couple of children, smacking a dung ball back and forth to each other because copied content from the internet is no more valuable than a dung ball. So uh, please talk to each other like professionals. Use use personal pronouns in class discussion. You can say I. I learned. I work at. I don't think something is X, Y, or Z. Please use conversational English in your discussion questions. Don't try and make them sound like a term paper. I'm not looking for that kind of language. Your classmates aren't looking for that kind of language. And when you reply to each other, don't try and lecture them with some nonsense you found on the internet. You actually talk to them on the discussion board. Again, it's a professional discussion. It will be about class content, but use a conversational tone. Now, in your APA papers, practice academic tone, where you write in the third person. You don't use personal pronouns, and you'll see in my writing samples academic tone. So I want to make sure I covered that. So again, any questions or concerns, email me. That's the only, I don't check the messages section in the classroom, and email is the only acceptable communication vehicle between students and faculty at the University of Cumberland's. So everything's recorded. If you ask me a question and I ignore you, you can send that to my supervisor and say, "Hey, Professor Walker ignored me for a week and now I'm worried," but I won't. I check my email at least once a day, usually a couple times a day. If I see a question from you on course content, I will. If you have trouble with the classroom, contact tech support. If something's not working on your computer, or you need additional training in how the classroom works, contact tech support. I'm there for any and all course content issues. Okay, so now I'm going to stop sharing this PowerPoint, and I'm going to do something different. I'm going to say new share. This is different for me. I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully, come on. There we go. We'll get out of there, get out of PowerPoint, go down to File Explorer, and I want to talk about academic writing, writing originally, and um, bibliographic software. Pardon me. Get a dry throat while I'm talking so much. Um, I graduated from Colorado Technical University in March, and I started that program in March of 2016. And I was able to complete a 3-year full-time doctoral program, largely because of my bibliographic software, which is called EndNote. I'm going to hit start on EndNote. This program, if you go out and Google it, EndNote, costs the student license. Why is my screen sharing paused? Hang on. Resume share. Okay. Well, I didn't do anything critical while the screen sharing was paused anyway. But I did bring up EndNote, my bibliographic software. And there's another one that you can get a free version of called RefWorks. But if you Google bibliographic software, uh, I can't recommend it too highly. It it'll change your life. You can't get through a dissertation without this, I don't believe. So the sooner you get it and download it, the better. I would hope that you go ahead and write the check, download a version, go to Get RefWorks, start getting used to it. As soon as you hear this lecture, literally the same evening, go ahead and get it before you do any discussion question, before you do anything else. Get bibliographic software. It's that cool. It's that functional. So what you can do with uh, bibliographic software is collect resources, collect references. You can, if I have a paperclip here, it means that I have the full text version of this article. And I did my project for my dissertation was on enterprise social media, which is wikis and blogs and basically Facebook for work, SharePoint, those sorts of things, Slack. Um, there are quite a few Yammer, quite a few things out there. So one of my references here, assessing the value of corporate blogs, a social capital perspective. So if you in your bibliographic software, you can double click on that, and it'll bring it up. And here you can see in these fields, it's all about the journal it came from, the year it was published, the authors, what pages in the journal it was in. It gives you lots of information about that reference. And then here you see this tab, that's the actual article. So as you're doing your research, you can make notes in here, you can highlight things, uh, and that highlighting will stay. You can make a comment. Three-phased study. I could go in here and I could highlight that, and I can enter a comment, and I could say, click on the icon. How many phases is that? So you can make comments on your articles, and I'm telling you, when you're doing your dissertation, these sorts of things are invaluable. And then you close that out, and you come back, and there's your comment. So you can highlight and comment on your research articles that are informing your dissertation, and it's magic. But here I'm going to show you here in a second. I'm going to show you the absolutely uh, most fantastic, coolest thing you've ever seen if you've never used bibliographic software. And a lot of folks in a master's degree, if you didn't have so let's do a Word document, and we'll call it EndNote demo for ITS. Come on, ITS832. So here we're going to start a new Word document. Now you'll see here, once you install EndNote, and again, I'm not, if you get EndNote, I'm not your tech support. They've got a 1-800 number. But let me show you how this works. So here we'll go back out to my EndNote article. Here we got just a Word document. I can type just like anything else. Let's go out to my RefWorks here, and or my EndNote. I'm sorry. And okay, so we were writing about. I'm writing about a corporate blog, and you'll see this all in my dissertation. I'll share lots of my writing with you from my doctoral program and my dissertation. So I'm writing about enterprise social media. Say I'm wanting to say that blogs are good for something. I want to make a uh, I want to make a comment. So about about blogs. Blogs are useful. Okay, so here in his abstract, he summarizes his basic findings. Okay, so what I could do is go back to the highlighting tool, and I could copy this statement. But this would be bad. This is exactly what I'm telling you not to do. Okay? I could grab that and I could hit Control C and I could go out to my Word document and I could go like this. And that in and of itself is bad, wrong, lazy, gonna get you in trouble. Okay? So don't do that. I'm going to hit Control Z. What I should do is go out to EndNote and say, okay, so his findings indicate that corporate blog can be used as a sustainable forum leading to a shared understanding of organizational roles, increased sense of group cohesiveness, improved work processes, and improved professional and personal ties among employees in the organization. So that's what he found in his research, or they found actually. There's two of them, two authors. They found those things as their bottom line findings, and when you go through the literature, you'll pick these things out of the abstract yourself. But in my train of thought, in my document, I'm out here writing about blogs, right? Blogs are a valuable, and I'm writing this originally out of my own head, guys. I'm not copying this from anybody. I'm writing this. Blogs are a valuable, let's say, facet of an enterprise information systems. Let's call it a blogs or an enterprise information portfolio. Okay. Um, they have been shown to increase a company's employees' sense of, let's call it sense of community. So here I'm writing about the benefits of a blog, right? Well, when you're writing your dissertation, literally every statement of fact, every sentence has to be backed up by a source. You can't say the sky is blue without citing a study that proves in an academic journal written by someone with standing that the sky is blue. Literally, you cannot state a fact in your dissertation without citing a reference until you get to your findings. But when in the beginning of your dissertation, as you're setting up, you're justifying your research, you can't make a statement of fact without, and you'll see that in my dissertation. So anyway, I'm going to say this is just my academic paper for this class. They have been shown to increase a company's sense of community, employees' sense of community within, let's say, within the organization. because we're not talking about Facebook here. Okay, so I paraphrased what he said here. Improved professional and personal ties among employees in the organization. So without even looking at this, I put it into my own words and into my own context. But I want to cite this because I didn't make this up. I didn't make this statement up here. I learned that by reading this article. So I'm going to cite this source. So in EndNote, what you do is you go back. No, I don't want to save those comments and whatnot I made. So I don't want to save that highlighting or anything. You go back to this part of the view, and when you have it highlighted in Word, I can cite the article that I'm talking about that I have highlighted back in over in EndNote. All I have to do is click the EndNote tab, and that's new. You can tell you have EndNote installed if you have this special tab here. I can say Insert Citation, and watch this. Insert Selected Citation, because I have the citation that I'm going to use. Please move this window away from the... that must be something with the recording. Anyway, Insert Selected Citation. Bam. There's my article source from out here, from EndNote. Bear and Alex Brown. It enters it here, and look at this. It cites the reference down here. So if this was an APA paper, I could go and center and put my references page here, and then if I put another, say I write something else, and this is just some other stuff. Say I write that and I want to go cite another source. Now, if I cite somebody here, the limits of jointness, and that's it. Knowledge management and theory and practice. Pretty sure that's a book. So say I want to cite that. Now I come in here, blah blah blah. I said something that I learned over in that book. Same thing. I paraphrase. I don't copy. I don't copy and paste and reword. Now I go to EndNote and I hit select, insert selected. Bam. Now watch this. There's my source, and it goes in alphabetical order. Now look, say, you know how references have to be in alphabetical order, right? So say I want to cite a source that starts with a C. So it will show up in between here in my reference list. Watch this. You go out to EndNote, and if you, all I'm trying to show you is that it manages your reference list at the end of a Word document for you. So you say insert selected. See, it automatically put the B, C, D. It automatically puts these references in alphabetical order. And you notice it's got the correct indentation, the correct use of italics in the name. It handles all of this stuff for you. It's magic. You've got to go get bibliographic software. Okay, so that's all I'll say about that. Bibliographic software. And now I've given you an example of paraphrasing. I've given you an example of citing your source in APA format. So I'll see you all in the classroom. Okay, this week it's just an introductory, get to know each other discussion. We'll start with the real course content next week. Okay, again, questions, concerns, anything like that, shoot me an email, please. Okay, I'm going to hit stop record and post all of this online, and I will see you in class this week.